Depression, courageously fought and won a 6-year global war that threatened our very existence, then helped build the economy back up. But now the men and women of the greatest generation are in their late 80s and 90s, and today it's our mission to help their legacy live on.
I'm Kacey Montoya with the Wings of Freedom Tour. It's kind of like a flying museum for these incredible aircraft that flew during World War II. Also amazing, the greatest generation who fought to make the United States of America what it is today. And now to honor the men and women who risked their lives to save ours, I've got your ticket to buckle up and board Honor Flight Southland's mission number 7.
Dive bombers, dogfights, and kamikaze attacks. The sky was one of World War II's largest battlefields. And while the Spitfires, Mustangs, and Mitchells that flew and fought between 1939 and 1945 are still marveled by history buffs today, it's this commercial plane that has me in awe. Its order of the day, take these 35 brave men and women who served and sacrificed 73 years ago from LA to DC for a tribute of a lifetime.
How you doing, Jake? So far, so good, huh?
Consider Craig Van Doren the ace of Honor Flight Southland, co-founding this hub in 2014. Today, the patriotic philanthropy has 131 branches across the country, covering 45 states.
The national organization actually started back in 2005. A gentleman named Earl Morris, who was a retired Air Force captain, physician's assistant, was working with a lot of vets. And after the World War II monument opened up in 2004, he was asking them, like, well, have you gone out to go see your new memorial?
The veterans had every excuse in the book why they couldn't go.
Earl said, I got to do something about this. So Earl was also, by the way, a private plane pilot. So he lined up about 4 of his buddies with little 4-seater Cessna airplanes, and he took a pilot, a guardian, and 2 veterans, flew to DC for the day, and that was the start of Honor Flight.
Those 4-seater planes soon turned into jumbo jets on the tarmac, taking off with dozens of those who donned a U.S. uniform.
Hey, Joe, good job, buddy.
Our Captain Van Doren enlisted with Honor Flight in San Diego, where he volunteered to be what's called a guardian on 2 trips. He got hooked and decided to start this branch in Southern California. Since 2015, Honor Flight Southland has taken 260 vets and their guardians on missions where they're treated like the heroes they've always been. Many say they've rarely felt appreciated. The organization has brought in about $750,000 for the cross-country Call of Duty, but each flight costs about $75,000. That includes airfare, hotel, food, and transportation. And while raising donations for this red, white, and blue cause is challenging, Van Doren says it's a battle he refuses to lose.
I was not in the military myself. I couldn't serve, so this was kind of my way of giving back and continuing to give back. And as long as I see a veteran that wants to come back to Washington, D.C. that has never been back here to see their memorial, I'm going to keep working.
Since Honor Flight was created in 2005, 180,000 vets have made this touching cross-country journey. Today, more than 27,000 men and women are on the waiting list, but they can't take off without your help.
I'm excited to see the whole thing. It's a wonderful operation.
Ready for takeoff, the veterans anxiously await Flight 542 to the Capitol. They'll tour the nation's war memorials, many for the first time. You can see the excitement in their eyes and history in their faces, all with different stories to tell.
There are 35 World War II veterans on this honor flight. The youngest is 90, the oldest, 100 years old.
Every vet on the Honor Flight trip gets a guardian, often a family member, but many times the military men and women are paired up with volunteers, like Tony Maricino, who's been matched with 92-year-old George Rothman, a U.S. Navy vet.
They answered a calling that could have changed America. It could be a different country, a different language, and went and did their job, didn't ask for anything, came back home, went back to work. A different breed of person. They truly are just tough as nails.
As we soon learn, the itinerary will be full of sentiment and surprises.
In the day, before you had email, before you had cell phones, you didn't have texting.
You have the best kind of volume.
First, a special delivery of thoughtful handwritten letters and cards from loved ones and local students that perks everyone up in their seats.
This is from Kim. Hi, Uncle Floyd. Thank you so much for your service.
The touching tour may be meant for the vets, but Carolyn Geiger says it's really her honor to travel as her dad's guardian, U.S. Naval Officer Floyd Hutchins.
Mom never wrote. She never was much of a writer, so this makes up for it, which is awesome.
For Army Sergeant Hal Katz, the memories are still fresh.
It was really nice to get the letters and find out how some young people feel. Actually, almost brought tears to my eyes. That we do recognize that we were fighting for freedom there. Some of them said we still are fighting for freedom now.
Active duty military and other volunteers line up to salute and welcome the veterans.
How you doing, Jake?
Relishing the moment, shaking every hand. The gratitude is contagious. Passengers and even strangers stop to thank them.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
The moment overwhelming for onlookers as the vets start to not only see, but feel the recognition they've longed for all these years.
Very few times have I been treated.
And the feeling never gets old. It is as fresh as the very first time. To me, to see this and see the welcome that these men and women get, it's just incredible for me. I never get tired of it.
It was emotional for everyone, but the tears didn't stop there. Coming up, the patriotic and memorable moments when these veterans visit Washington, D.C., some for the first time. KTLA's Honor Flight is just getting started. Helping to tell the stories of the 16 million Americans who heroically served during World War II, the Planes on the Wings of Freedom tour are flying history. Welcome back. I'm Kacey Montoya, and this is KTLA's special Honor Flight. Now, wheels up for the tribute of a lifetime.
With his proud daughter capturing every priceless moment, 90-year-old Navy veteran Ben Reed finally gets the hero's welcome he's been waiting for. The sailor served as a U.S. Navy coxswain in the South Pacific, and while looking for ways to commend her father's time as an active ally, Michelle McCormick heard about the Honor Flight a few years back, but feared the waiting list would be too long.
We got on the list. We were actually supposed to maybe go in October, and then they had a last-minute cancellation, and here we are within a week.
The petty officer feels lucky to make today's logbook and be given this rare opportunity to tour our nation's historic monuments.
February 19th, we descend upon that island. 40 Marines, by the way, and they have the stars and stripes with them, and they plant that flag.
First stop, Arlington National Cemetery, where more than 400,000 active duty service members, veterans, and their families are laid to rest. The symbolic changing of the guard ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is a special moment for the father-daughter duo. Next stop, the Women in Military Service for America Memorial, then the U.S. Air Force Memorial. But on the momentous journey, it's the World War II Memorial that's the most memorable and moving. A welcome complete in period costume, Ben beams as he gets a thankful kiss on the cheek. As thoughts travel back in time, emotions of today swell to the surface.
Kind of overwhelming, especially for old people. Old people are not supposed to be emotional, but we are. This has been a great trip. I wish every vet could make it.
And as the man who served not for self, but for country confides he's only been thanked a few times for risking his life, there is no doubt this is a moment that will be cherished far after this family returns home.
I think for the first time in a long time, he's feeling like people truly appreciate him and his service. I'm so thankful that he's had the experience to know that Americans do support our veterans and they do appreciate what they've done.
These planes and veterans made history. Also on board mission number 7, a Purple Heart recipient and a woman who met her husband while caring for wounded soldiers.
They're thanking me, and yet I think that I did so little.
In a time of battle and bloodshed, the war brought 98-year-old veteran Nikki Smith love.
At that time, the barracks were full of women. Everyone was young and eager, followed orders. We did what we could. I actually nursed my husband-to-be. When he got well, we dated and ended up married.
Decades after saying "I do" to her military man and raising their 2 children, the former nurse gets a surprising call
that they were building a women's memorial. I became a representative for the state of California. This set of letters from you.
It's here today thanks to this woman, Wilma Vaught. She's the first woman to deploy with an Air Force bomber unit, plus the first female to reach the rank of Brigadier General from the comptroller field. Vaught didn't want women's role in the military to go unnoticed, so she pushed for the structure, which was finished in 1997. Nikki's son, Bruce Campbell, who spent 4 years in the Navy, says he knew this trip would be one no one could forget.
This may be the last major adventure of her life. I was glad that I was able to engineer this for her. I was really happy that I was able to give her this opportunity.
While some fondly reminisce, others recall the challenges they faced.
I didn't feel so proud when I came out.
92-year-old Al Wallace tells us being black gave him a different experience in the field.
So we weren't treated quite fairly. We did what we were ordered to do and tried to serve the country to the best of our knowledge. Well, I was in the cook and steward branch, and I had to serve the officers. There was just a lot of bitterness there after we served the country and then we didn't get the honor we deserved.
But he didn't let that change him. He remained positive, a quality his son most admires about his father.
So I fortunately was able to raise 3 children that I'm very proud of. They have achieved much more in life than I could ever have thought of.
When I was on the ship, the doctor looked at my hand and he said, "You're going to lose your hand."
In February of 1944, the U.S. Navy lieutenant was the chief navigator on a landing ship tank, or LST, when a torpedo hit. They were 50 miles offshore of Anzio when a piece of exploding deck plate cut off part of his hand when he was just 22 years old.
The first torpedo took 60 feet off the bow, and that floated off by itself. Stayed afloat for 24 hours. And we had a fire that was tremendous. Everybody that was there was burned. We lost 7 out of 12 officers and about 46 enlisted men.
He was awarded a Purple Heart for his actions that day. Although he shared his war stories his entire life, he says seeing one thing on this trip makes him finally feel complete.
For years I've looked to see, did anybody build a model? But here it is. This is wonderful. I'd never seen it before.
Third-class Petty Officer Bernie Couch was on the USS Anzio during World War II.
We traveled 190,000 nautical miles. That's 5 times around the Earth at the equator. And we were in 10 major engagements.
He says there were many close calls during that time.
The sister ship, the Macon Island, took a torpedo. One missed us 5 feet. 700 men went down. 170, I think, survived. No officers even got off the ship.
The highlight of his trip? Seeing this anchor for the last time. It's the anchor off his ship. His daughter Carolyn was honored to escort her father on this trip of a lifetime.
To come to this place and visit their memorials and maybe get some closure of the war. I know a lot of men saw a lot of things in the war that they can't talk about. It just makes you appreciate what these men did for our country.
Like our veterans, these planes have stories to tell. Coming up, our crew gets a history lesson at Fort McHenry, plus a heartwarming welcome home. KTLA's Honor Flight has one more stop. These aircraft had to make it through enemy enemy fire, endless attacks, and harrowing weather hitting sub-zero temperatures. On our last day in D.C., a cold front moved in, but nothing could dampen the spirit of these veterans who have waited a lifetime for the recognition and respect they say they longed for.
This flag is different than any other flag you've seen. It has 15 stripes and 15 stars.
Bundled up in blankets and raincoats, these World War II veterans surround this massive American flag, which has become part of an unexpected history lesson.
So this flag flew on that flagpole. That's what it looked 200 years ago.
It's a familiar song, our national anthem, and although most of us know the words, many have never stopped to think about what it means. It was a poem written by Francis Scott Key after witnessing British ships bombard Fort McHenry in 1814.
25 hours the British attacked the fort. They fire mortars that are 200-pound bombs, bombs bursting in air. They had a rocket ship, rockets red glare. Gave proof through the night that our flag was.
We've heard the words 1,000 times, but didn't recognize them.
97-year-old Mac Edwards was a U.S. Army sergeant in India during the war. He says after hearing the story of the Star-Spangled Banner, he's even more proud to be a veteran.
A lot of old hands there rolling up that flag.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
Even in the cold, windy rain, these veterans toured the fort and sat reverently watching a ceremonial flag change, recreating what took place on September 14, 1814, signaling American victory in the Battle of Baltimore, soaking in a triumphant moment in our nation's history.
Just like the war that lasted 6 years, this trip will not soon be forgotten. And now, coming in for a landing like never before.
A hero's homecoming as these World War II veterans return to LAX. More than 100 people waiting with signs, flags, and a lot of love to thank them one more time. Heartwarming reunions spotted across the terminal, including this one, where a vet greets his wife of 65 years. Guardians and veterans overcome with emotion as the trip comes to an end.
Happy heroes welcome. When they return from war, and when they get it now, it's truly meaningful.
Wonderful experience for him.
Yeah.
I think that he felt just totally excited and really appreciated it.
Many vets not only surprised to see the crowd, but even more surprised to see so many of their loved ones waiting.
It's the most wonderful trip I've ever been on. It's unforgettable. I just want to say thank you very much for all the people that made this possible. I'll never forget it.
While this honor flight has touched down for a smooth landing, your donation can help the next one take off. In the sky and on the ground, watch out for the Wings of Freedom tour. And remember our call of duty today. Keep the message and the spirit of the greatest generation alive. Thanks for watching.
wonderful. One of the more than 130 Honor Flight hubs across the country is right here in Southern California.
Joined us this morning, the co-founder of the local chapter of this incredible program, Craig Van Doren of Honor Flight Southland. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Why did you start it?
Well, I kind of got into it two different ways. First off is both my parents, my mother and my father, were both World War II Navy veterans. They met in the service. And I come from a pretty much military family, and it's just a chance to pay a generation a chance to give them a good thank you that they've never had that big thanks before. So,
when you see these images, I mean, it gets you. That Mr. Reed, Ben Reed, amazing. You could just see the emotion, and just for us watching it, it's very emotional, very powerful. These really mean something, these trips.
It is incredible, and Ben's story is just one of the 264 that we've heard on the veterans that we've taken on the trips. In fact, it's the stories that hook you. This is all living history, and we just want to try to capture it while there's still an opportunity to catch it, because in a few more years it's all going to be a moot point.
I mean, just look at their faces. You can just see it all over their faces, how much this means to them.
A trip that they had not taken or were not able to take on their own.
Right, it's a trip of a lifetime for them. And unfortunately or fortunately, for a lot of these folks, this is the last chapter of their life, in many cases the last paragraph of their life, and to be able to give them this thank you at this point in their life is just, it's the most rewarding thing that we've been able to do.
So it's a cross-country trip. It's very expensive. Can you talk about that? Is that why they can't do it? Is it just because they don't have the support to be able to do these tours that you provide for them? All that. What is it that makes it so difficult?
It's a little bit of everything. In most cases, because we're out on the West Coast, it's a little more difficult. Our logistics are different than an East Coast hub. A lot of those are able to do it in one day. Our trips are 3 days in duration. It's 3 days, 2 nights. And, we have to arrange for the guardian to go with them. That's all about safety. We're concerned for the safety of the veterans. And it's just a much more of a difficult thing for us to do. But that's why we so much depend on the support of all of our donors that help make these trips happen. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do it.
It's an amazing gift that you're giving. You're changing their lives. Like, really, it's an amazing gift to give them.
Well, the reward is ours. Let me tell you.
Well, you know what? You can help make a veteran's dream come true. All you have to do is visit KTLA.com/honorflight to make a donation. You just saw how important it is and what it can do for these families. This Memorial Day weekend, you can really make a difference. KTLA has your ticket to board that Honor Flight. Tonight, in fact, at 7:30, you can watch the half-hour special and see more very emotional moments as we continue to take and honor American heroes.
You make a good point. There's a very limited amount of time to help make sure it's accomplished for all. 8:49 right now. Let's get with Liberty. Take a look at our weather as we head into Memorial Day for tomorrow.
Memorial Day is looking nice weather-wise. Temperatures are going to rise.